Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Gachiakuta, Season 1.
Hi, yep, Gachiakuta, Season 1, Episode 20. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. It's Age. We're back from our Anime Night in the Dojo, and well, I mean, Kaiju battle?
Kaiju battle.
Is that what's really going to happen here? Because that'd be freaking hilarious. There's a lot of questions of what could potentially happen here, so that's going to be fun based on everything of how last episode wrapped up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. So,
like I said, everything about freaking that we've seen of Guida so far, freaking just screams she has a gigantification power of some sort.
Yeah.
Whether it's like she actually herself grows, or like her freaking onesie turns into like a mech suit or something, but
I'll be surprised if she doesn't. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If it's something else, fine, whatever, but I'll be surprised. So, either way, lots of interesting stuff going on. There was a lot of face last week. I was going to put that collage together. I totally forgot to make the collage, you guys, so we got Typhon just looking badass over here instead. Now, I forgot to do a bunch of stuff at the end of last week because of all the madness that was going on. So maybe I'll do the face collage for the end of the season. But there was a lot of face last episode, though, too.
There's been quite a lot of face in this series in general.
Yeah, this series is a lot of face, like over here on the the key visual. So if you guys are a fan of face, then this show is for you. 20 weeks in, if you didn't figure that out yet. I don't know. But either way, all that stuff being said, let's just go ahead, push some buttons, and see what's up with this week. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the time reaction, and people on YouTube, we'll see you on the other side for the discussion and review. And if you're looking for either or, it's in the appropriate places for links and whatnot. So you guys know how to use the internet. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then. Did you guys see this awesome, incredible build-up to a very cool encounter that was waylaid by madness and hilarity? Because, man, if that was on your bingo card, you probably had like 100,000 to 1 odds. Well, maybe not that high. Maybe like 10,000 to 1. Still, you would have won a lot of money.
Yeah, apparently Bundus has horrendous luck and just constantly gets waylaid.
Yep. So, I mean, this whole sequence, the way they were building up, it was very cool. It was going to be a thing. We were speculating on whether, like if Deer like punched a couple of his arms, just like one of his arms, would it like over and over again, would it like, chain reaction into his actual, vital instrument, that kind of thing. And nope. Instead, we get car sequence. You know what I mean? This is what we got instead of the cool fight. I mean, what can you even more say about this sequence? It was a absolutely insane sequence. And I will say this. Something we did see in the Jeeps that the cleaners have, they're left-hand drive. So, like American cars. This is a right-hand drive car.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of interesting. You know what I mean? we talked about how, what's her name brought up, like, the Latin dance stuff. And now we've got right-hand drive cars. So, where the hell are we?
Which we got more along those lines of the whole thing of apparently Corvus knowing about 3R.
Yep.
So there's clearly some level of knowledge about the original Earth. Right.
Which, is an adage we use today, the 3R. It's a thing. But, yeah, I wasn't expecting this sequence to take up this amount of the episode. As you guys can see here, when they land on Engine, that is a solid, 6-minute sequence. And it didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. which a lot of these sequences usually do. You know what I mean? It's not like it was like, oh, this is dragging, this is stupid. It's just like, that was 6 minutes? Holy crap. You know what I mean? It was kind of like some of that stuff in freaking Volume 7 of RWBY, where it was like, are you sure that wasn't an hour-long movie? No, it was 19 minutes. Okay, then. But still, that was a great sequence. And then we capped it off with the RNG of landing right next to Engine and Fu. And Fu is giving up on life.
He has thoroughly defeated himself.
He's thoroughly defeated himself. Once again, we mentioned at the end of the reaction there, it's like, you know, you gotta, we talked about this before, it's like, you gotta be a good shit talker if you're a Thorns build, you know, have some good information on how to insult people. At the very least, like I said, you could just, like, and I mentioned it too, it's like, people who get their vital instruments insulted usually get mad about it, so, like I said, your umbrella's stupid. You have a white umbrella? What kind of nerd has a white umbrella? That's stupid. You know what I mean? Just anything.
I mean, what kind of Thorns build doesn't even spec into taunt?
Yeah, I know, right? Come on. We need to get this guy. We need to get him to go to like some like you know, like rap school or something. Like some he needs to be on some like diss tracks. You know, you gotta go to that kind of thing. Like real good ones, not the like fake Twitter, you know, things that go on these days.
He needs to start freaking studying vicious mockery compilations.
Right. So, yeah, that is just what it is. But man, the amount of hilarity in this episode, underscored by the serious nature of everything that is going on, was definitely something I was not expecting. It's just like, we could do a cool fight sequence, or hear me out, we could throw them all into a car that's going down a vertical shaft. And then have them try to drive out of it, A, in a vertical shaft, and then B, without a steering wheel.
Yeah, they're going to try to drive the car in a vertical drop when the car is not touching the wall and the steering wheel's not touching the car.
Yeah. So, you know, good luck with that. I'm impressed that the axle was still able to turn. You know what I mean?
Well, it turned initially because the steering wheel was still attached, but when it hit the wall, it broke off.
Yeah,
and
but
they didn't realize it.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Just in general, with how beat up this car is, I'm surprised anything's functioning. I think for the extra bit of comic genius, what I would have done is I would have had Deer's window be intact, and then he just pushed the button and rolled it down there at the end. I would have taken that extra step for me personally. You know what I mean? Just that extra little bit of like, his window is somehow intact, and then he pushes the button and somehow it still rolls down. So yeah, that was definitely a sequence. Gotta appreciate everything about it. Why have an epic fight when you can have hilarity? You know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta break it up, and that is what it is.
Which I will say, Bundus is still a potential threat. Like, we get that shot of him eyeing Engine, which I'm pretty sure is meant to imply that he has something to do with the fact that their shit was being jammed until just recently.
Right, because that was the whole thing, was the callers, or whatever they call them. Generally speaking, the chokers do not work only underground. And they weren't underground. Or they assumed they were underground initially.
Yeah.
But now that they know they're not underground, it's like, why is this not working?
Yeah, they assumed they were underground and that's why the chokers weren't working. But if they're not underground, then why weren't they working?
Right.
Someone must have some ability that's jamming them.
Yeah, which all of a sudden, since he's kind of like not fully committed to claiming the bounty, he probably has stopped jamming it or something like that. You know what I mean? Because his ability seems to be more or less to build whatever he wants. You know what I mean? So his arms, it was a very quick shot, but each arm had a different number on it, meaning they could have different random actual versatility, not WoW versatility. I got the dig in. some sort of special ability, like jamming. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen similar with the whole thing of like Jabbers having multiple different toxins with his claws. It could be a thing of each of his like prosthetic arms are capable of. They each have their own like individual power.
right, and we did see that 2 of them were able to grow larger.
Mhm.
So that was already something. You know what I mean? So it will be interesting to see if we get more on him. But you know, backups on the way. The cracked steering wheel was definitely a thing. They showed the tornado like 6 times. I think they were really proud of this animation, and it was very cool. It's very desktop background. I'll give them that. It's a solid screensaver. You know, if you put it all together into a perfect GIF and you just cycle it, I think it's very cool. But man, were they proud of this? Somebody in the office was probably like, "No, man, we have to show no." This was really cool. We have to work this into as many shots as possible. Because,
Well, it's entirely possible that that's just accurate to the source material if they kept showing this, because as we heard from Zodal, that this storm comes through every few years, and like presumably this is the sphere just seen from the ground.
right. Which, that was something that I wrote down. Assuming that this is the sphere, that means it takes the sphere 6 years to orbit the planet. And they were talking about before how they have like trash falling from the sky, frequently. Oh, that's hilarious that's the just flash screen. That's freaking funny. But so that calls into question, is like, so is this just like the eye of the sphere, and like whenever the sphere is like reasonably in range? I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Well, this is kind of going off of, once again, the fact that I do have a little bit of knowledge of how the border works, and it being like a different dimension and stuff like that. I'd imagine it's something to do with that, where like this storm is more or less like the physical location of the sphere at a given time, but because of the way the border works, potentially like the trash that goes into it just kind of gets scattered across the planet.
Got it. Yeah, that makes reasonable sense. Because again, I don't have any source material knowledge, so I don't know. But just based on like everything with their weather reports and stuff like that, if the sphere in theory takes 6 years to orbit or whatever, and it's just not on some sort of weird set path, and it's like a Zapranigan path of all over the place, you know what I mean? It calls not into question, but it raises some interesting questions of like, kind of like, what's the deal with Spy Family's world, and why is there like tropics over here, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So it's like, what kind of path is the sphere taking? Is it just orbiting on the equator? Because if it was just orbiting on the equator, you would think that the majority of the rest of the surface wouldn't really have trash landing on it. You know what I mean? It would just be within a reasonable vicinity of the equator, not, oh, we're like 3,000 miles from the equator over here, and yet trash is falling on us. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'd assume that this is basically like the primary storm of where the sphere currently is, and that the smaller storms are just kind of offshoots of this that just kind of end up in other locations.
Yeah. So either way, that's kind of like an interesting thing to kind of think about. But yeah, we outside of the hilarity sequence and stuff like that, we got that. We got to speculate on that a little bit, and then, well, he said the thing that he shouldn't have said. That was pretty much it. You know what I mean? And I also got to give Rudo props for some really, really serious upper body strength here.
Oh yeah, no, freaking bro pull a pretty big upper body strength feat too, with freaking swinging the car into the tunnel.
While also going against gravity and the entirety of the car and their combined weight in that car.
Yeah, no, the weight of the car plus all of them in it, plus however much freaking Bundus's arms weigh, all at freaking not terminal velocity because they keep hitting the wall, but like at some serious momentum.
Right. So that there are some pretty neat feats of strength in this one. Along with all the other versatile uses for Engine's umbrella, it's also a drill.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that in his like one actual fight scene we got from him back in episode 2.
Right. I mean, we saw him use it as a boat, so you know, the comedic use for it. But still, it was nice to see that again. The origin of his name, we'll probably get more of his backstory and stuff like that on. It makes it sound like, generally speaking, what he said means that somebody named him when he was older. You know what I mean? Not the name he was born with kind of situation.
Well, yeah, so he gave 2 different bits of info on it. He said that, like, it was the person he owes everything to gave him the name, and that Corvus gave him, like, the explanation of the root of the name being Ensign.
Yep. So, once again, we have a lot of backstories to get to and stuff like that. But again, with the amount of source material that is being pumped out by the author, that's all there for people who want to read it. And I can't imagine we'll be waiting too long for season 2 because they're not catching up to the source material.
Yeah, I mean, if they go fast, they might be able to catch up, but it's still going to take them several years at this rate.
Yeah,
probably, because like it's probably going to take them at least a year, probably closer to 2, to come up with to start to like actually get season 2 out.
Yeah,
and freaking, there's already probably close to 3 seasons of material, like full 2 core seasons like this.
Yeah,
and the author is still like showing no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, she's going ham. But that's also a good thing. It's better when you don't have writer's block and can put a lot of stuff out there that you enjoy to do. And you know, when you're putting out that kind of consistency, generally speaking, it means you don't have time to get in your own head about what you want or need to do, and you just do it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like autonomous ultra instinct. You just do it. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, you end up like the Shield Hero writer, who is. We all know what happened with that, even though season 5 has somehow miraculously been confirmed. But you know, there's enough source material for that at the very least. But still,
Kadokawa typically really does not like dropping their big series, especially with how much they've invested into Isekai Quartet at this point.
Yeah, so that's a whole other discussion. But this has been one hell of a season so far. I'm enjoying the hell out of the show. It's great. And as a guy who just loves comedy, this episode was friggin' hilarious. It had its serious moments. Obviously, the stuff with Typhon Rudo, you know, explaining why he trusts the cleaners and stuff like that. And generally speaking, everything he said about it was true. They didn't have to do that, and because they did that, that's why they're trustworthy. You know what I mean? And yes, could they have done it with ulterior motives? Of course, anybody can have an ulterior motive at that point. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to have a group that big all be in on a con and be okay with it. Okay?
Yeah, plus, well, we hadn't really seen any major examples of it prior. We did get an example this episode of, like, Engine's first response to, oh, this is a thing that could potentially cross the border, is, oh, this could help Rudo.
Yeah. Not, well, we have to stop this because of the trash beast. It's like, well, I mean, if he's going to accomplish his goal right now, then so be it. You know what I mean? But I will say there was an awful lot of face in this episode, too. Even though the comedic, like, characterized one with Engine, that one was pretty great, too. So either way, we got a little bit on potentially what the cloak does, the coat, should I say?
Yeah, it's some sort of like manipulation of things, because like he had his whole thing of like, you know, experimenting on the other items And then he commented about how he's the one who just shifted the trash beast. And then we see here he turns it he turns the coat itself basically into a wingsuit to chase after Rudo.
Yep. So it will be interesting to see what is up with that. And then we got left on the cockroach that is Jabber. He's having a good time and now is fixated on, Rio, which is probably going to end up bringing in Rudo at some point for some serious awkwardness.
Yeah, he's disillusioned with Zonka and turned his obsession to Rio now.
Because, she shot him multiple times.
She fucking shot me.
Not as many times as Lana has shot Archer in the Archer series, though. So I'll give him that. So either way, definitely a hell of an episode again. And looking forward to seeing where they go from here. But we still got a reasonable amount of the season to go. So yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure that will culminate with this. Maybe we'll get our kaiju battle. Or maybe not. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, Rudo's situation here was he was trying to drop down to go help Guida, but we'll have to see what happens because he, got waylaid by he wasn't expecting Zodal to wingsuit him.
Yeah, right. On, Miles Morales' face. So, anyway. Again, another solid episode. I was not expecting the massive hilarity, but that's the best time for hilarity is when you don't expect it or want it. So, there you go. But,
yeah, I mean, a major part of comedy is timing.
Yep. So, either way, that's all I got for this one. So, you got anything else, Age?
The other members are all kind of scattered at the moment. Kathani is off with Jabber, gonna do something, presumably her orders at this point are basically just get all the other raiders out of the trash beast since it's taking off.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll just have to say, presumably next episode is going to be Zodal versus Engine.
Yep. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond, however you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging out here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. Gachiakuta, Season 1, Episode 20. So, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.